Most people think they're struggling with English. They're actually struggling with something else. The weird thing isn't the vocabulary. It's what English does to your personality.
Yeah, that's the real trap right there.
Welcome back to English Unfiltered. Today we are doing a deep dive into a huge stack of notes, personal journal entries, and research articles that you actually sent in to us.
Right, because you're stuck. You've been on this intermediate plateau for years now, and we're going to unpack exactly why.
Exactly. Why just memorizing more words is literally not solving your problem.
It's basically the ultimate hidden trap. You spend years of your life, sometimes decades, honestly convinced that the only barrier between you and the rest of the world is just a few hundred more words.
Right, just one more vocabulary list.
Yeah, exactly. And the research in these notes highlights this so perfectly. People at an advanced level, they look at their own hesitation and they just misdiagnose it completely as a language deficit.
We fall into this massive false assumption. You literally tell yourself, well, if I just had more vocabulary, I'd be totally fine.
Which makes sense on paper.
It does. So what do? You download another language app, you go out and buy a thicker grammar textbook.
Or sign up for more intense listening practice.
Right. You chase down another proficiency certificate, right?
Yeah.
You build this whole narrative that if you can just reach this mythical state of absolute flawless fluency, then all of the social anxiety you feel when you open your mouth will just poof, magically evaporate.
Yeah, but while vocabulary and grammar obviously have value, at a certain point they just become this massive distraction.
A distraction from what?
From a really deeply uncomfortable truth. Based on the psychological studies in your notes here, for someone at your level, like an intermediate or advanced learner, English is actually no longer your biggest obstacle.
Which, that sounds completely counterintuitive.
Right.
If the English language isn't the obstacle to speaking the English language, what on earth is?
The obstacle is everything that exists around the language. Just think about your daily life for a second.
Okay.
You reach a level where you can listen to hours of audio content completely effortlessly.
Oh yeah, you're watching movies without subtitles, catching the little nuances.
Exactly. You sit in these complex corporate meetings and you completely comprehend the strategic points your colleagues are making. The ideas are fully formed in your head,
Cool.
Yet when the spotlight swings to you and it's finally your turn to contribute, you feel physically stuck. The words literally freeze in your throat. And the data shows it is not because you lack the vocabulary to express the thought.
Right. It's because you don't actually trust yourself to speak those words out loud. It's this exhausting cycle. Looking through your notes, it actually made me think of this mechanical analogy.
Oh, lay it on me.
So imagine you own a car, right? And it just feels super sluggish. Every time you try to accelerate on the highway, it just really struggles.
So you assume the engine is weak.
Exactly. You think, my engine is terrible.
Yeah.
So you spend thousands of dollars upgrading it. You drop in this massive high-performance engine, which in this case represents your advanced grammar rules and your massive flashcard vocabulary.
Okay, I follow.
So you get in, you hit the gas, the new engine roars, but the car is still violently shaking and just barely creeping forward. And you're like, why?
Because you left the parking brake on.
Yes. You left the parking brake on.
Oh, wow. Yeah, you're just burning out your own engine.
Exactly. That friction is exactly what the psychological research in your stack of articles is pointing to.
Yeah.
You feel uncomfortable speaking, so your brain just totally misinterprets that discomfort.
It says, oh, my English must still be bad.
Right. My English is insufficient. So what do? You retreat back to the safety of your textbooks. You study more. Your actual linguistic database grows.
You upgrade the engine again?
You upgrade it again. But the next time you go to speak, the friction is identical. The parking brake is still fully engaged. And then you wrongly conclude that you need even more English.
And the cycle just repeats indefinitely. But at a certain point, the problem transitions from being a linguistic issue to an entirely psychological one. People are totally confusing fluency with psychological safety.
Oh, that's a huge distinction.
Yeah, and it alters their behavior in ways they don't even realize.
Wait, let's stop right there and unpack that psychological trap, because the research you highlighted touches on something huge here.
Yeah.
If the language isn't the issue, what is actually happening in the brain?
Well, why does the discomfort stay exactly the same even when someone's vocabulary doubles?
Exactly.
It comes down to this concept the researchers call the invisible exam.
The invisible exam.
Yeah.
Many learners are just relentlessly monitoring themselves. When they communicate, they aren't just having a conversation with another human being.
Yeah.
They're conducting this real-time highly critical audit of their own brain.
Wow.
They listen to their own pronunciation the exact millisecond the words leave their mouth. They evaluate their syntax mid-sentence.
Yeah. They analyze their word choice. They compare it to the native speaker who just talked. And this is the mechanism that actually causes the freeze. They anticipate mistakes before they even happen.
Okay, but wait. I kind of have to push back on that for a second.
Go for it.
Isn't constant self-monitoring just, another term for being self-aware? Like, if you don't monitor yourself, if you aren't paying strict attention to your output, how do you ever catch your mistakes and improve?
I mean, it seems like stopping that monitoring would just lead to totally sloppy communication.
Right. You just be making mistakes all over the place.
So on the surface, that makes total logical sense. But it completely ignores how human working memory actually functions.
Okay. How so?
Let's look at the neurology from the articles you provided. The human brain has a limited amount of working memory. Think of it kind of like the RAM in a computer.
Okay, the RAM.
Yeah. It can only hold and process a few pieces of active information at any given millisecond. When native speakers communicate, their RAM is dedicated almost entirely to meaning.
Just get the point across.
Right. They are just trying to get an abstract idea out of their head and into yours. But learners caught in the invisible exam, they are dedicating like 90% of their RAM to correctness.
Oh, wow. So the system just crashes?
It crashes completely, like the spinning wheel of death on a Mac. You are trying to formulate an idea, translate it, run it through a textbook's worth of grammar rules, check the pronunciation, and monitor the facial expressions of the person you're talking to.
That is, the cognitive load is just too massive.
Exactly. You turn every casual interaction into a high-stakes evaluation. Every tiny slip of the tongue becomes this hard evidence that you don't belong.
Yeah.
And every small hesitation feels catastrophic.
Man, that neurological explanation actually brings up this painfully relatable situation from the notes you sent over. Let's bring this to life for a second.
Let's do it.
Picture this scenario, right?
Yeah.
You are in a high-stakes work meeting on a video call.
Oh, the worst.
The little green light on your webcam is just staring right at you. You've been listening to your colleagues debate this super complex logistical problem for like 20 minutes. And suddenly, you see the flaw in their plan.
You've got it.
You have a brilliant idea, a genuinely great money-saving solution.
But the idea doesn't just fall out of your mouth.
Not at all. First, the concept forms beautifully in your native language. Then, the internal machinery starts spinning. You begin translating it in your head.
Okay, phase 1 complete.
Right. But then, the invisible exam begins. You review the grammar. You ask yourself, wait, should I use the present perfect continuous here? Or just the past simple, let me check the timeline of the project?
Naturally.
Then you swap out a really common word for a more professional-sounding synonym, just so you seem smarter. And finally, the sentence is now perfectly constructed. It is sitting in your mind like this fragile glass sculpture.
It's pristine.
Pristine. Now, you just need the exact right millisecond of silence to jump in.
You are literally holding your breath, waiting for the perfect pause.
Yes. Your heart rate is actually elevating. You might even be sweating slightly.
Sure.
You wait. Someone finishes their thought. They take a breath. You lean forward. You finally open your mouth. And your coworker, let's call him Dave, jumps in loudly with a totally mediocre idea and changes the subject entirely.
Oh, Dave! Classic Dave.
The moment is gone. The topic moves on. Your perfect glass sculpture of a sentence is now completely irrelevant.
Smashed to pieces.
Yeah. So you sit back in your chair in silence, feeling like you just failed a massive test. But the tragedy is, the test never even existed.
Wow.
The problem wasn't your lack of English. It was your anticipation of the exam.
That scenario is devastatingly common, and it perfectly illustrates the behavioral consequence of the invisible exam. It creates this hidden social rule that the psychology papers in your stack call the perfectionism penalty.
The perfectionism penalty.
Yeah. There is this deeply wired, totally false belief among advanced learners that they're only allowed to speak when they can speak flawlessly.
Like, if there's a mistake, you shouldn't say it.
Exactly. They view a flawed sentence as a social failure, a mark against their intelligence. But the data reveals this counterintuitive truth that flips this entirely on its head.
Okay, what is it?
The people who reach true conversational mastery the fastest are almost never the ones with the most accurate English.
Wait, hold on. Let's make sure that lands. The fastest learners, the ones who actually become the most effective communicators, are not the ones with the highest test scores or the biggest vocabulary.
Not even close. The statistics are totally clear on this. The fastest improvers are the people who are the most willing to be completely, unapologetically imperfect.
Really?
Yeah, because the real world of human interaction does not reward perfection, it rewards participation.
Okay, I love that.
Think about it like this. In a classroom, you start with a 100%, and every mistake deducts a point.
Right. The red ink on the paper.
Exactly, it's a subtractive environment. But in the real world, communication is additive. Even a totally broken, grammatically incorrect sentence that solves a problem, it adds value to the room.
Wow. That reframing from subtractive to additive, that is profound.
It changes everything.
Because I have seen incredibly smart, talented professionals sit in absolute silence just because they refuse to share anything less than a masterpiece.
Oh, all the time.
They are objectively the smartest person in the room. They literally have the solution to the company's problem, but nobody knows it because they've muted themselves. They just let Dave take the credit.
It is a tragic cascade effect, really. Let's connect the behavioral psychology back to the invisible exam for a second.
Okay.
When your primary focus is on avoiding mistakes rather than connecting with another human, perfectionism takes root. And perfectionism demands certainty.
But conversation isn't certain.
Exactly. Conversation is inherently uncertain, which immediately creates hesitation, like that moment in the video call where you freeze.
Right.
Hesitation naturally breeds silence, and silence ultimately prevents any real-world growth. You are actively choosing to remain voiceless to avoid failing an exam that literally no one else in the room is administering.
Man, you choose silence to avoid a fake test.
Yep.
And the longer you sit in that silence, year after year, it starts to erode something much deeper than just your language skills. Reading through your personal journal entries, this is where the narrative kind of shifts from a frustrating mechanical issue to a deeply emotional one.
It really does.
Because it starts affecting your actual identity.
The research on bilingual identity formation is super fascinating here. It goes way beyond the mechanics of grammar.
Well, because you spend decades developing these technical skills, right?
Yeah.
You memorize lists of irregular verbs. You drill the pronunciation of difficult consonant clusters. You master all these academic transition words.
But what did the textbooks completely fail to teach you?
How to develop an English-speaking identity. You never learn how to actually feel like yourself when you speak.
And it creates this profound sense of isolation. I mean, you reach a point where you can speak with really high accuracy, your syntax is structurally sound, but you feel completely disconnected from the actual sounds coming out of your mouth.
It's like you're a robot.
Right. And the fundamental goal of learning a language was never to just process and output information like an AI chatbot. The goal was to express your humanity.
To project your actual personality into the world.
Exactly. To communicate your specific dry sense of humor, your controversial opinions, your deeply held values, your bizarre curiosities, your actual authentic self.
Yeah.
When your brain is so overloaded by the cognitive strain of being perfect that you can't even crack a joke or share a quick anecdote, you just feel like a shadow of yourself. You basically become the boring version of you.
I want to use a metaphor here, building on some of the notes you provided, because this really struck me. It's kind of like wearing someone else's clothes.
Okay, I like this.
So imagine someone gifts you a beautifully tailored, incredibly expensive high-fashion suit. The measurements are technically flawless. The fabric is pristine.
So that suit represents your perfect textbook grammar.
Exactly. But your actual personality, your true style, you're like a t-shirt and vintage leather jacket kind of person.
That's who you really are.
Right. So you walk into a party wearing this perfect suit, and instead of feeling confident, you feel incredibly stiff. You feel like a complete fraud.
You're just uncomfortable in your own skin.
Yes. You can walk, you can talk, you can function, but everyone you interact with is meeting this rigid, overly formal version of you. They aren't meeting the real you.
That analogy captures the tension beautifully. And if we look at the psychology, we can add another layer to it.
Go for it.
The vocabulary and grammar are really just the fabric. You were handed this incredibly high-quality silk from your Cambridge textbooks, but you were never taught how to stitch it together in a way that drapes naturally over your unique personality.
And that's so true.
And the tragedy is, many learners at your level already possess enough raw linguistic fabric to express who they are. They have the vocabulary to make the joke. What they lack isn't the words, it's the trust.
Wait, let's differentiate that. Why use the word trust instead of confidence?
Because trust operates on a much deeper psychological level. It is the trust to survive the social awkwardness when your joke just totally falls flat.
which happens to native speakers all the time.
All the time. It is the trust to know that if you butcher a sentence halfway through, you can just laugh, correct yourself, and keep going without the world ending.
Yeah.
But most importantly, it is trusting that the person sitting across from you genuinely just wants to understand your ideas and connect with you. They aren't holding a clipboard grading your syntax.
So if building that internal trust and reclaiming your identity are the real objectives here, like if that's how we finally release the parking brake, how do we practically get there?
Right.
Because this brings us back to the open question from the beginning about fluency versus confidence.
It does. And this requires dismantling the final and honestly perhaps the most damaging false assumption in the entire language learning community,
Which is
the myth of the confidence fairy.
the confidence fairy. The idea that confidence is just something that is bestowed upon you from above.
Precisely. There is this pervasive belief that one day, if you just grind through enough flashcards and pass enough exams, your fluency will hit a critical mass. And at that exact moment, the confidence fairy will tap you on the shoulder and announce, "Congratulations, your grammar is now perfect. You are officially granted permission to feel confident."
People view confidence as the trophy you get at the finish line of the fluency marathon.
Yes. But the psychological data proves that is a complete illusion. Confidence and fluency are two entirely separate, distinct neurological skills.
Separate skills.
Totally separate. Fluency is the mechanical ability to retrieve and produce language. Confidence is the willingness to use that language under conditions of uncertainty.
Let me stop you there because I want to make sure we don't gloss over that definition.
Yeah.
Fluency is the mechanical ability.
Yeah.
Confidence is the willingness to act under uncertainty.
They are not tethered together at all. We see this all the time in the real world. You can have an immigrant with highly imperfect broken English who possesses massive confidence.
Oh, absolutely.
They will talk to the CEO, they will strike up conversations in the grocery store line, and despite their limited vocabulary, they get their point across brilliantly and build these huge networks.
Because they're just acting under uncertainty.
Exactly. On the flip side, you have students with literal master's degrees in English linguistics who possess absolute zero confidence, and they remain silent in the corner of the networking event.
But surely you need a baseline of correct grammar before you start talking, right?
Yeah.
I mean, otherwise, aren't you just confidently practicing mistakes and reinforcing bad habits? Doesn't the feeling of readiness have to come before the action?
Well, that is the academic argument, but it completely ignores how the brain's fear center, the amygdala, actually processes threat.
Okay, science time. Tell me about the amygdala.
The amygdala does not learn through logic or textbooks. It learns through survival. The people who progress the fastest do not wait for the feeling of readiness. They speak before they feel confident.
Before they feel confident.
Yes, action must always precede feeling.
Because if you wait for the fear to disappear before you speak, you will literally be waiting forever. The fear only disappears because you speak.
It is essentially exposure therapy. Confidence is not the cause of your action. It is the biological reward for your action.
Think about the massive wave of relief that provides. Like for you, listening to this right now, staring at your notes, it means you do not have to wait anymore. The prerequisite is totally gone.
It doesn't exist.
Every single time you push through that terrifying moment of hesitation and you force yourself to speak, even if your voice shakes, even if you use the wrong tense, even if the phrasing is just super awkward, you are actively rewiring your brain.
You survive the interaction.
Exactly. You survive. The other person nods. They understood the core of your idea. And in that moment, you didn't download a new dictionary into your brain. The language didn't change. You changed.
The learner adapts. You begin to view English not as this rigid, terrifying academic exam that you are constantly failing, but simply as a messy, highly imperfect, beautiful tool. A tool you use to bridge the gap between your mind and someone else's.
Let's kind of pull all of these threads together, because the journey we just went on through your research, it completely shatters how traditional education tells us to approach language.
It really does.
We start out believing the barrier is purely technical. We tell ourselves we just need to consume more data. But the reality is, the English language is infinite.
Oh, totally. You could study for 3 lifetimes and still encounter idioms you don't know.
Right. So at a certain point on the intermediate plateau, consuming more grammar gives you severely diminishing returns.
I mean, The return on investment for memorizing 50 new obscure vocabulary words drops to 0 if you are still too paralyzed by the invisible exam to even use the words you already mastered 5 years ago.
The greatest barrier keeping you stuck isn't a lack of technical ability. It is a profound lack of permission.
Yeah.
It is you refusing to give yourself the permission to speak imperfectly, the permission to take social risks, to stitch the fabric of the language to fit your actual personality, and honestly, the permission to just sound like a flawed, authentic human being.
Which brings us to the ultimate takeaway from the notes you gathered. It's a massive paradigm shift. Sometimes the next level of fluency is not more English. Sometimes the next level is finally believing that the English you already have is enough.
Believing that your English is enough, that is the exact moment the parking brake comes off and the car actually moves.
It really is.
But honestly, once you finally reach that point, once you conquer the invisible exam, give yourself permission to be gloriously imperfect and reclaim your identity. You actually run face first into an entirely new wall.
Because there's always another layer.
Always. Think about it. What happens when you realize that even with bulletproof confidence, native speakers are still completely baffling?
Oh, they are a mess.
You could be totally unafraid, but they are operating on this invisible web of hidden cultural rules, bizarre regional slang, and unspoken social meanings that no one ever thought to put in a textbook.
It's a whole different game.
You realize that mastering the psychology of yourself was only phase 1, navigating the messy, unspoken psychology of them. Well, that is a whole different conversation. Next time you catch yourself holding your breath on a video call, waiting for the perfect sentence to form in your head, ask yourself, are you trying to communicate? Or are you just taking an invisible exam? Thank you for joining us on this deep dive into your research. Talk soon.